the Joseph Heller book, Catch-22. Loved the book, quite liked the mini-series. Not that fussed with the film version of it because I don't think it portrayed the absurdity and despair of what I think is a classic piece of literature. Now, I thought that John Cowan, being the literary genius that he is, was going to be talking about some of the nuances of Catch-22 today because that's what he talked about in his notes. But actually, turns out he hasn't even read it. John,
well, I've read some of it. I've watched, I think, the TV series, but the book got a bit boring, and that's what I want to talk about today, getting bored.
Well, that's part of the book. I suppose that is the point of Catch-22, is that it's all pretty pointless. War is pointless. The lead character gives up on it, and hey, maybe it's actually the sign of a great book about pointlessness that you didn't find the point of the book and gave up on it before you got to the end. I think that's job done.
In that case, the book was completely successful. I think I would hope that people will get to the end of this little segment, Andrew, and not think, well, that was totally pointless and boring and
There's always
just
a first
reinforced
time.
my life, that life is meaningless. But in Catch-22, there is a character called Dunbar, and he loves doing boring stuff. Here's a quote. Dunbar loved shooting skeet because he hated every minute of it, and time passed so slowly. He'd figured out that a single hour on the skeet shooting range with people like Havermeyer and Appleby could be worth as much as 11 times 17 years. You see, Dunbar was desperately afraid of dying.
Yeah.
He was afraid of death, and so he decided to live as long as possible by making time pass as slowly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So he treasures boredom and discomfort. It's not a great philosophy, honestly.
Honestly, I think other people I know have that same ministry gift, actually, to make my life longer than it would be otherwise.
I've sometimes wondered if some churches, their idea is to make time pass so slowly that you're getting a glimpse of eternity. You've got
here to eternity. Yeah, that was a different film, wasn't it?
Life about time. But personally, when I get totally bored, I think I would actually welcome death. I unfortunately have a very low threshold for boredom. In fact, this conversation's dragging a bit already. I think I might just go and have a cup of tea. But no, I discovered years ago that you can still redeem some pleasure from a bad movie by getting up and leaving it. Maybe that's why I never watched all of Catch-22.
Yeah.
My wife is quite used to me getting up at the movies and mumbling, "I'll meet you in the foyer." And on my bedside table is covered in half-read books, and my phone is full of half-listened to podcasts and lectures. Maybe I'm just a modern person with an attention span that's been shaped by TV and then honed down even more by TikToks, and even they can be a bit long. But sometimes, though, I do get trapped in a meeting or having to listen to someone drone on and on and on, and somehow I have to survive. So in the interests of giving listeners something useful this morning, here are my top tips for surviving a boring lecture or sermon or meeting or family gathering or whatever it is. And one of them is to count your teeth with the tip of your tongue.
Okay.
An advantage of that is that for me, an advantage of that rather is that it puts a concentrated look on your face. It looks like you're really wrapped in what they're saying as you're moving your tongue around your teeth. Counting teeth is getting easier for me as I'm getting older because I'm getting less and less of them. And one day I'll be able to take my teeth right out of my mouth and be able to count them. That's going to be a lot easier, but it might be a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah, it's a bit less subtle.
Another technique that you can use is sitting there with your arms folded, counting your ribs with the tips of your fingers. Now, I bet you've had those ribs for a long time, Andrew, but I bet you can't tell me how many you've actually got.
Hopefully that's not something which reduces over time. Hopefully I've still got the same amount of ribs that I had when I started with. It's not like teeth in that regard.
I'm finding it's a bit harder to dig down to where the ribs are underneath the layers of fat. But a strict rule that I think you should bind yourself by with that one, though, is only count your own ribs. I mean, it might be a bit disruptive in church. Anyhow, we'll carry on.
Exactly.
Time how long you can hold your breath. I'm sure we all did this at school. I think, seeing how long you can hold your breath, but warning, passing out is a dead giveaway that you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah.
And also a loud, sudden gasp and panting after a record attempt may come at just the wrong time
Yeah.
in a meeting. So take care of all of these ones. My favorite one, and I was reluctant to share this with you because it's just so potent and powerful, that has saved me for years and years during boring things, is I call it word cricket, but I don't know if that's the right term. And that is, you are listening to the speaker, but you are listening for a word containing an A,
Oh, yeah.
and then a word containing a B, and then a word containing a C. And you work your way right through the alphabet. I let myself off with Q's
Yeah.
because Q just doesn't pop up often enough.
Urquhart's got a Q in it. Seriously. I
But
can help with your word bingo.
yeah, but no, it has to be something that you're actually listening to.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
listening
okay.
to the sermon or
Yeah.
the
I don't come
CEO
up
or
in conversations enough, obviously.
no. And the beauty of this is that you are listening intently to everything that's being said,
Hmm.
but you're not hearing a word, thus sparing your brain the discomfort of getting bored.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this isn't a good strategy, really. Our society seems to crave stimulation and excitement to avoid boredom, but I
Yeah.
think that the best alternative is doing something called flow. And that's a term uh, that was coined in 1970 by a psychologist called Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. It's a wonderful. That's true. That's how that's his name.
The good thing about
Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
his name would have just about the entire alphabet in it. So if it
It
came up
does.
in a
It's spelled.
sentence,
I've got it written down here: Csikszent, etc., etc. It's a
yeah,
Hungarian name.
yeah,
But anyhow, being in your flow is that mental state where a person is doing some activity where they're fully immersed.
okay,
They are energized in their focus. They are fully involved. They're enjoying the process and the activity. In essence, flow is being completely absorbed in what one's doing.
yeah,
And time just vanishes, time just evaporates. I can remember a singer, an old singer, telling me he used to be in a singing group, and that he said they would rather sing than eat.
wow,
And artists get like this. They're working away on their painting or their sculpture, and they realize that they haven't slept or they haven't eaten, or you know, I remember a jeweler told me that when she was making jewelry, she would sometimes look up and the day had gone and it was black outside, and she'd just been so focused on what she was doing, so absorbed in it. And what a fortunate person you are if your employment results in you being in your flow. And I have been that fortunate person. There's been lots of aspects of my job where I have to just tell myself, this is only work, you can do it. But other times,
yeah,
I'm just astounded how the time just flies by. And I think that's got to be your goal. That's
mm,
got to be your goal, not just aiming for the big bucks or whatever, but aiming for a role, a task, a job, something in life where you can be in your flow, when your skills and your attention get totally absorbed in something productive and time vanishes and stress melts and
yeah.
anxiety just evaporates. It may mean that you get suddenly surprised that your life is all used up, but what a way to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a question for your game of alphabet bingo.
Yes, I knew. See, I knew I shouldn't have mentioned it. That's all you did during the rest of my talk, wasn't it? You were listening for an A and then a
No, no,
B.
no, no. I was curious. Do you have to play it in alphabetical order? So if you get a
Yes,
Q,
I think so.
oh, okay. Because if you get a Q
Yeah.
early in the story, you can go, oh, I'll just bank that. Because if it was like actual bingo, you
Yes.
don't have to get them in numerical. Sorry, just point of
No,
clarification.
look, I'll say, look, I sometimes play a version with a cue. I accept any time
Oh,
during the lecture or
yeah.
sermon.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
so you can tick that off. But because there might be something like quiet or question or something like that that pops up,
Exactly.
but they're not very common.
No, not as
And I'm
common.
sorry, but that's the only point that's going to stick in your head from my whole ramble
No,
today.
honestly, I think this has been a great service for the listeners who now have something to do whilst they're listening to my show. John, always a pleasure.
Thank you. Cheers.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.